Hey guys, Bob Yeager here. Bobby's holding the camera, and let's walk through the woods for a little bit. All right. First thing we want to do is find a good camping spot, and I want to show you how to do that. All right, right here looks awesome, right? Got all this open space. It's grassy. Should be a great place to set up, right? Problem is, this is on a hill like this, not to mention, it swoops in that direction. So if it rains, you're gonna have water coming all down through here. Not to mention, this is a deer trail, so all the deer will be coming through. We wanna look for wildlife, water, widowmakers, weather. We take those things into account when we're doing camping, because a widowmaker is anything that can fall from the trees and land on your tent and hurt you in your sleep, okay? Wildlife can be insects, it can be animals, any of the kind of things that could bug you. So ticks, rabbits, raccoons, deer, whatever it may be, predators. Then when we look at weather, we want to look at the weather broadcast before we come out. And even if you camp in stormy weather, snowy weather, whatever, you can bring the right gear with you to be able to handle those things. You want to see what the wind's like, how many miles per hour, all that kind of stuff. Because do you want to hang a rain fly tarp or something in a wind like that? No, you're probably going to be lower to the ground in a tent. Water is really important, because if you see leaves smashed up against a certain area or something like that, that means water's been washing through there, and you can actually see the direction that the water flows. So you want to gauge the way the land moves, and you can tell the water is going to move in that direction. So over here might look great because it's a nice little open brushy area over there, but you can see the ground moves in that direction, so water is going to go that way if it rains. So I'd want to be up towards the top of the hill. So right here, we're under the canopy of some pretty strong trees. So you have an ash tree over there, cherry over here, oak right here, and you get this nice canopy that keep a lot of the weather off of you. I still want to camp right here because this is where the deer come through, right? I'm not going to camp over there because that's a big hole right there. You might think, well, that's great, I can get down in there. Well, that's where water would lay. Over here, we're up off the hill a bit, and this is a fairly level surface. We just have to clean some stuff up to be able to set up here. So I'm off the trail, I'm not in a hole, I'm up above where water would run, I'm still under the canopy, and the wind's blowing this way. So it's not gonna be blowing into my tent. So if I had a small fire right here, my tent back here, I have a perfect camping spot. And if I'm hunting, well, heck, I'm ready for the deer to come out of that field or out of that valley over there, which is the way they come in. So they're not going to see me before I get there, and I have plenty of cover back around me back here, so they won't be able to see me. And that's what we really want to look for. We want to stay out of the way of the wildlife. We don't want to disrupt it. We don't want to be damaged by it. But we also want to be able to utilize our position if we're hunting. All right, it's really critically important that you look for animal sign, all right? So back in this area here, you see a lot of high weeds, but then I see some lower stuff where the deer have been munching away. So I know that they're eating there, they're spending time there, which means they're also going to bed down there. So in the early morning hours, if I'm walking out through, they're already going to be here, and I'm going to boot them out, right? So what I'm probably going to want to do is the afternoon before, set up all my camp, get myself ready, and be really quiet all night long. And when I wake up in the morning, the deer are likely going to be passing through here to bed down for a while. All right, down in this area here where all these ferns are all over the place, where all these fern are, I can see that the ground is worn down on each side of the fern, which means the deer are coming through here, hopping over and coming straight up through here in the field or down through here in the path. So I definitely don't want to set up in this area here. But if you're hunting, you want to make sure that you come through a couple weeks before, not a day or two before, a couple weeks before, and clear any brush or overhanging limbs or anything that's obstructing any of these paths for the deer, because we want them to flow in our direction. Sometimes if you own the property or you have permission, you can set up a barrier that'll keep them from going that way or that way, and it just funnels them straight through. Luckily, we already did that here, where we've kind of made it so the deer walk in a certain way. One thing you want to keep in mind when you're going through the woods and you're scouting your hunting locations or your camping locations, you're dragging your feet through all the brush. Well, a lot of people don't realize it, but it's the small game that bring the tick in, okay? Because they're coming from a field through the underbrush at the edge of the field. They're bringing it in. The deer walk through. They get the ticks on their legs. We do too, okay? So after you're done doing this, make sure you check yourself really well. Make sure you're wearing long pants. I like to wear boots that come up high too. They're under my pants right now. You want to make sure you're protecting yourself against that, but also realize you're going to have more tick activity towards the edge of a field in the beginning of a forest, because that's where the small game run through, and that's where most of your tick are going to be. So the deeper you get into the woods, or the further you get into an open field, you're going to have less tick activity. Right now, we're kind of right off the edge of the field, lots of tick activity. All right, I'm always thinking about what the animals I'm hunting actually eat and what they need to nourish themselves and what they need for sheltering themselves. Down here, there's always a high activity of buck that like to lay down in here. It's because there's plenty of cover. They can see everything that's coming and going, and they can hide pretty well in those areas. They like to hide around the thorny areas and things like that. Up here, this is where you're gonna have your doe and your babies walking through. The buck will walk through here, but typically when the doe are grazing and stuff, they're gonna be hiding off the edge of the trail, all right? That's why it's really important you don't hunt on the trail like this. You want to be off to the sides of the trail, and you want to position yourself and be really quiet, because it might take a few hours before that buck will stand up and actually walk down the trail. During rut season, when doe are in estrus, the buck will follow those doe for miles and miles and miles, okay? But once you spook the buck away, they kind of remember what's going on. They'll be looking for you next time. You'll have a hard time sneaking up on them. Now, I look for the food that they eat. There's plenty of ginseng in here. There's many different things that they eat in this area here, in this grassy area. So I know they're going to come back here for food. And one of the reasons I know this is because just a couple weeks ago, this was about 3 feet tall, and it's not anymore. So they've been grazing a lot through here, right? But here's something I want to show you. When you see a low-lying log like this, you might be half tempted to cut it up and get it out of the deer trail, because you're thinking, well, if they don't have this to trip over, they'll come through here. They're already coming through here. During this time of year, I'm not going to disturb any of this stuff, because they've been coming through here for weeks and weeks and weeks, and this log is always there. You start messing with gasoline and oil and a bunch of things and changing the environment too much, you're going to find that they're not going to come through here. Now, if a tree came down like this oak right here, if this big branch came down and it obstructed the trail, that's not a permanent thing. They're not used to that being there, so we're going to get that out of the way. But we want to reduce the amount of scent we put through the area. So even when you're going scouting for a location, have your clothes washed in, scent-free soap. Make sure you're putting your descenting stuff on. Wear your clothes that you're going to hunt in. Make sure you're wearing some orange in case people are out squirrel hunting or archery hunting, of course. Don't disturb the other hunters, right? But be safe. And make sure you're wearing your scent lock clothes and stuff that keeps your scent in, so you're not spreading your scent all through your hunting area. It'll dissipate over a few weeks, but I don't want to disrupt the deer population right before prime hunting season. This is a prime thing that you want to look for. Bobby, if you bring that camera in real close without touching these, point it at that vine on the tree. Poison ivy. See these big shoots coming off here? All the leaves are dead off this. There's a good chance this vine's dead, but it still has its toxins in it. You want to be very mindful that you're not messing with this kind of stuff when you're just scouting for a location. Now, this is mine and Bobby's hunting spot right here. We have a controlled fire pit. We have a little table we keep some cutting tools out here for us. And we have a couple chairs over here. If we're going to hunt off this trail, we're not going to be camping right here. Okay, because this is our regular camp spot. The deer are probably already kind of weary about it, but they've gotten comfortable walking past it. I don't want to disrupt that right before hunting season. When I have this trail right here, what I'm probably going to do, I'm going to find a place maybe to set up camp down in this hollow a little bit. There's some flat ground in there. It's above the water table. The creek's down below on the hill. And there's plenty of logs and things here to keep anything from any water flooding down over this hill area. It stays pretty dry down there. So I might set up a small camp, little one-man camp down there. But my buddy for camp, I'm not gonna have him sleep right next to me. What I'm probably gonna do, if we know we're gonna both get up early in the morning and hunt, I'm gonna be on one side of the hunting area, and he's gonna be down on the other side of the hunting area, or up above this way. But we're not going to camp right in this open area, because when the deer comes through, they'll see us getting up in the morning and everything. We want to treat our camping as if we're doing stealth camping and we're hiding from enemy soldiers or something. We don't want anybody to be able to see us getting up and getting out, especially during archery season. We want to keep our movements down to a minimum. And I really want to be able to walk out of my campsite into my blind and start hunting straight from there. All right, so I might have my blind tent set up right here. Over here, have a small little one-man hiking tent. I'm good to go. Probably not going to be starting a fire or anything like that the night before. I'm probably going to be cooking on my little gas stove because it's not going to throw off too much of a scent or a lingering scent. And I can eat my food and I can stow everything away in my scent-free bags and keep it in my tent. Then come over to my ground blind and hunt straight from there. And I'm in prime hunting spot right here. I can even come down here, do the same thing. If I want to get away from my camp, I wouldn't want to hunt over here, straight above this area right here. And here's why. Trails coming in this way, that way, and that way. This is the heart of the funnel. This is where all the traffic has to cross coming through these woods, all right? In this situation, I don't want to be on the ground. I'm too close to the heart of the funnel. I want to find a good tree. So perhaps this oak right behind us here, see the big one? A couple weeks before, come in here and limb off a few of these branches. I own the property, so I can set my tree stand right here, a permanent stand, not a climber. Or if you have to bring a climber with you, know your spot, right? But I want to limit weeks in advance so I can get up 15 feet in that tree, and now I'm at the heart of the funnel. But I want to make sure if I'm this close to the heart of the funnel, I'm not making any movements while I'm in that tree. I'm going to be as still as a statue. So it might be a good idea if you're not used to hunting quietly and very still. You might want to go out a couple weeks early and just sit in your tree stand for a couple hours. Bring a good book with you. Turn your phone off, put it on silent, whatever it may be. Don't sit there flipping on Facebook and stuff like that, right? Bring something out, read a book, whatever it may be. No blings and bells and whistles, anything like that. Learn to eat quietly, learn to drink your coffee quietly and all those things. Learn what you need to do to make your experience more quiet. So when you do have this prime spot like we have, you can utilize it and leverage it to your advantage. The other thing you could do, if you have a bit more money or a bit more ingenuity, you can build yourself a permanent tree stand structure behind a grouping of trees. So you may not catch them when they come through the heart of the funnel, but that's okay. When they walk past your stand, we have a stationary scaffolding back in there that we can easily put a surface on top of and sit up there. We'd have to cut some of the brush away to clear some shooting vantages. But right there, the deer aren't really going to notice us being up there, right? And we can put any kind of blind curtain around it, anything we want to do. So you really want to think about when you see these intersecting areas, yeah, it's a great prime hunting spot, but maybe I don't want to be right quite there. I might want to be off over that way, or even over here. This cherry tree right here is perfectly fine. It may seem a little bit crooked, but I'm only going up 15 feet right before it gets really crooked right there, okay? So these kind of locations, I really don't want to hunt right on that heart. I want to kind of get away from it in any direction I can, 40, 50 feet away from it, because I know I can be shooting that far even with my recurve bow. So I hope these tips helped you for some setting up camps and hunting spots, especially during hunting season. If you guys are going to go camping, you're not hunting, respect the hunters that are out there. Wear orange. Try to be quiet, okay? Practice your reflecting time and quieting yourself and moving through the forest the way the animals do. Heel toe, nice and soft, few steps at a time, stop. Because you might have a hunter out there that's been waiting for a few hours to get the perfect buck, and he's had a bead on him for the past hour, and you come walking through and chasing him away. You might not like hunting and stuff, but it's part of woodcraft. It's part of what we do as an American tradition, putting food on our table. And a lot of time those guys out in the woods, they're not hunting for sport. They're hunting because their family needs food in the wintertime. So please respect those hunters and practice this. Even if you're not a hunter, practice being a participant with nature, walking quietly through it like the other animals do, and learning to control your own body movements, footsteps, in the way that you camp in a non-impactful way. All right, Bob Yeager, Bobby behind the camera. See you next time. Take care.